Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hormone Helper podcast. I'm Coach Andrew, your hormone helper from Fit for All Fitness. I personally coach over 1,600 men and women to help better understand their hormones so they can lose weight and get their metabolism back on track. With this podcast, you're going to hear from me and my special guests about everything from metabolism to thyroid to weight loss. And we even talk a little bit of sexy time as we chat to spread more knowledge, thick like butter, on your hormones. If you're ready to learn, I'm ready to share, so let's do this. Hello, everyone. It has been way too long since I've been in the podcast studio, and I want you listeners to know that I missed you greatly over this past October. I feel like I have so much to share and tell you, and you're probably wondering what happened as to why there wasn't a podcast episode made in its way into the past 4 weeks. And I know that I was speaking a little bit about it on, I think, a couple of past podcasts, but last weekend was my Reconnect live event where me and my leadership coach friend Morgan Emery coach 9 individuals on how they can take their mental and physical performance to the next level. I have to say, this is the biggest event that I have ever put on together in all of my years of business. So for those of you who have worked with me or maybe who know me personally, I have done tons of seminars, tons of small stuff. I haven't spoken anything. I've spoken to companies on performance in the workplace. I've spoke to schools of 300 plus students on things like how they can improve their nutrition for better memory or help improve their physical fitness. I've spoken to lawyers and legal teams on how to deal with stress management so they don't burn out. There have been a lot of things that I've had a pleasure and the great opportunity of being able to have as a part of my business and coaching. But truthfully, this Reconnect live event literally took everything that I had to put together. It was an entire day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., a jam-packed day where Coach Morgan and I took the floor and we really took our coaching to the next level. You see, coaching events like these, they're not just about giving people tools. They're really about state change. If you can change your state, if you can change your thoughts, if you can change your mind, then you can change how you feel about yourself and therefore change the actions to take to make your goals and your dreams happen. So that's basically what I've spent the past 3 months doing, which is putting this together. And then this past month, I would say, intensely going over the information and all the teachings that we were going to give to these people. I did this because going deep like this is really tough. It's tough for me as a coach because it means that I have to show up at the really high level to make sure that state change happen. But it's also tough for the people who showed up because it challenges those people to look at their physical health, to look at their mental barriers, as well as the emotional state that people tend to govern and approach those two with. Now, I will say that I'm so blessed that I've been able to coach and work with all the clients that I have, and so fortunate that so many people, whether it's you guys listening to this podcast or even people reading my posts, I'm so fortunate that everyone's a part of this world. But I put together this live event because I keep seeing the same issue over and over that people keep manifesting into their physical health. And that issue is that most people in life only know how to perform or show up highly in just one area. They think that if they excel at business, then that means that they win at life. They think if they excel at their relationships, then that means that the rest is going to work out. Or they think that if they have the best physical body that might be really shredded, then the rest isn't going to matter. That's why people tend to fail to make something sustainable for their life and to keep something sustainable for themselves. It's also why the accomplishment of goals falls flat and why the struggle to find enjoyment and purpose or a sense of direction is so high in these past couple of years that we've experienced. You know, I mentioned a really powerful statement in the event to sum up this feeling, and I'm going to share it with you now. And here's what this statement is. You run at the speed of your weakest part. I'll say that again. You run at the speed of your weakest part. So is your weakest part your mindset around your goals? Is your weakest part your energy levels or constant health problems? Is your weakest part your emotional state around your why? Do you even know why you're working on your health or on your current fixated goal? Do you know your vision or your values that's going to make your life filled with fulfillment and filled with happiness? You see, these are the questions that a lot of the clients that I work with seek from me. And so I put this Reconnect event together to really address and deal with the total complete package. Because to me, high performance, showing up at the highest version of yourself, means this. It means that you succeed beyond the standard norms consistently while maintaining a well-being and positive relationships. I think that's how Brandon Bouchard put it. And I really like his quote for that. So I believe, to me, which is really important, I believe that you can't perform at a top level. You can't show up as your best self. Hell, you can't even say that you're performing well if you are not above the norm in all areas of your life. In all areas of your life. So that means if you're succeeding well in business, but you're not doing well with your health, you're not a high performer. If that means that your relationships are really well, but you're not making any money and it's really hard for you to pay your bills and your health sucks, you're not a high performer. Because high performance means taking it through all areas and all aspects of your life. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself. For me, like high performance, being high energy, having a fast metabolism, being stress-free, having tons of money, and having a great work-life balance, it can be done. But most importantly, all of these things can be done all at the same time. So here's what I want to do with this podcast, and actually with all of the podcast episodes moving forward. I'm not just going to give tools anymore, because tools help a little bit, but the most important thing is we all have tools in our toolbox right now that we're not using. We all have things that we can change with our nutrition that we're not doing. We all have stuff that we can do with our habits, with our lifestyle, that we're just refusing to make this change. So I'm not just going to give tools anymore. I don't think more tools makes more sense. The most important thing is I'm going to work episode by episode on making state change within you and with everyone who listens. This is state change in all three areas: physical, mental, emotional. It's my promise to you. I'm here to remind you that anything is possible. You just need to believe it. Because if you can hold it in your head, most importantly, you can most certainly hold it in your hand. So for this podcast episode today, I'm going to challenge you the same way I did with those 9 brave souls who spent the whole day with me this past weekend. So it's all about asking yourself, and what we're going to do today, it's all about asking yourself where you feel disconnected. When was the last time you asked yourself that? Where you feel disconnected? And I want you to think about that for a second. How do you know if you're experiencing a disconnect? You see, I'll share a personal story with this, and this is something I shared at the live event as well too. The first 2 years in my business, where I was supposed to be showing up as a really powerful coach, where I had a physical studio and I was teaching people how to live a healthy and practical lifestyle, I was so disconnected from that because I was not living what I was teaching. And by no means was I completely overweight or was I eating poorly, but I was not showing up at the best level that I could have been as a coach. I was going to bed at 11:30 because I didn't have work boundaries. I was waking up at 4 a.m. and then relying on 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day to get me by. None of those things were in connection with how I wanted to show up as a coach or even how I wanted to run my business. So the question again is, how do you know if you're experiencing a disconnect? Here's how you know. You know when the way that you feel about how you're doing something in the current moment is not the way you think that you're supposed to feel. So I'll share this little example with you. I did a seminar and a presentation for, I think it was the largest seminar I've ever done. I think it was close to 550 people, students, parents, everybody was all together. And I did this, and it was the largest crowd that I've ever presented in front of. And I was coaching them on the nutrition, and I was super fired up to do this. And then I did the presentation. And in doing the presentation, halfway through, I felt this doesn't really feel right. And then at the end of the presentation, I was left with a feeling of flatness, a feeling of emptiness, and really a feeling of confusion. And that's how I knew that I was disconnected in that moment. I did something, I completed the goal, I did the task, I hit my objective, but it fell flat. There was no drive behind it, and it wasn't something that I loved and that I looked forward to. You see, being disconnected is a state within your mind that you are feeling and experiencing physically. So whether it's something that you're struggling with health-wise, maybe it's something from a mental perspective, from a relationship perspective, it's really about looking at where am I having that physical feeling of falling flat, along with the mental and emotional disconnection that's there. So like a couple examples for you guys to really kind of write down, like financially. So like you're working hard, you're making money every single day, but you feel like you're never getting ahead. You're not getting any more, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. That's a disconnect. It's a disconnect from finances in that moment. Let's say physical, right? You're taking the steps to work on yourself every single day, but you're still overweight. Maybe you still have poor eating habits. Maybe you have disease or dis-ease, or you're experiencing constant sickness or fatigue. Clearly, with what you're doing physically or how you're showing up physically is a disconnect with how you're feeling. Maybe it's mental, emotional. So mentally, you're feeling a chronic level of stress that doesn't go away. You're experiencing depression. You have bouts of anxiety. You lack clarity on your vision, clarity on your goals, clarity on how you want to show up for your family or for your friends. Maybe you're doubting what you're doing right now, or you have a sense of shame or sadness because you just haven't hit your goal yet, or your goal fell flat. That's disconnect. From a relationship perspective, maybe it's unmet expectations. Maybe you feel really dissatisfied with how your relationship is showing up right now, both your relationship to yourself or your relationship to someone else. Maybe you feel resentment in a few of your relationships, or there's constant blame going back and forth. That's disconnect. Last one I would say is maybe the spirituality piece. A lot of people, they don't really take a look at this one. You're not clear on your purpose. You're not clear on why you should grow. You're not clear on who you should serve or what you should serve. And maybe there's a concern there. So financial, physical, mental, emotional, relationships, and spirituality. I want you to ask yourself something when you look at every single one of those categories. What do I need to stop doing, thinking, feeling, and experiencing that's keeping me disconnected? That's a really big and powerful question. As a matter of fact, this is one of the questions that physically helps so many people iron out their why with their health and their fitness goals. If you're someone who's listening to this podcast because you're trying to make changes for your health and you're trying to make changes for yourself, you need to stop and look at this right here. What do I need to stop doing, thinking, feeling, and experiencing that's keeping me disconnected? Because if you've tried to lose weight 2 or 3 times before, there's a disconnect between what you're doing and how you're showing up. Or if for some reason you can never seem to make the food stick, there's a disconnect between how you're feeling and what your actions are. That's really, really important. You need to ask yourself that keeping you disconnected question for every single one of these things: financial, physical, mental, emotional, relationships, and spirituality. Really dig deep into this, because oftentimes when you have surface level pain, when you have surface level challenges, when you just want to get healthy because you can fit in a bikini, or get healthy because you want to wear a certain outfit, that is not going to be the thing that motivates you, inspires you, and helps keep you consistent past when the excitement is gone. Because your excitement will leave long before your commitment is finished. That is universally with everything across the road. You want to be a business owner? Guess what? First year, your excitement's gone. How are you going to continue your business? You want to continue to make money? Perfect. As you start hitting more money plateaus and more platforms, the excitement goes away. Same thing from a physical perspective. So it's really important for you to look at that disconnect. Now, once you've asked yourself that first question, you then need to look at the second question, which is, what do I need to start doing? What do I need to start thinking? What do I need to start feeling that will help me reconnect? You see, reconnection, and the reason why I called our live event the Reconnect Live, is just like I said, state change and you operating at the weakest part literally starts in the weakest area. If you think of your body like a car, other areas might be able to perform faster, run hotter, run longer. But if you don't improve in this one area, if you don't connect in the one place where you feel faulty, the entire system won't work right. So what is going to help you reconnect in this moment? Let's talk health right now. What do you need to start doing? That's the first part of this question. Maybe it's you need to start looking at your food. Maybe it's you need to start prioritizing movement, just movement in your routine. Walk 1 to 2 times a week. Do a strength training 1 time a week. Walk 15 minutes a day. Do 10,000 steps a day. What is it that you need to start doing to move closer to you feeling reconnected? Now, let me tell you what a feeling of reconnection feels like. I did this seminar, and you can hear in my tone of voice, you can hear in the energy that I'm showing up to you in this podcast right now, that I'm fired up and I am supercharged. Your goals, your visions, your dreams, the actions that you take every day should get you excited. They should get you excited for you to show up the next day. If you're doing something and you're not excited to show up the next day, you're not connected to what you're doing. So reconnection is about finding the 1 or 2 things that you can work on each week that will allow you to start to love and reconnect whatever it is that you're working on. So from a health perspective, what do I need to start doing? Maybe it's I need to start doing the meal prep. And just 1 to 2 times a week, I put on music. I maybe put on my favorite show in the background, and I start chopping vegetables and getting to work. Now, the second piece of this question is so important. What do you need to feel that will help you reconnect? I'll tell you something. You know what helps reconnection? Feeling good. We want to repeat things that make us feel good over and over again. We like the hit of dopamine. We like the feeling of success. We like being told that we've done a good job. We want to feel things that make us feel happy. So, what are the feelings you need to help you reconnect? Laughter, joy, and excitement. How can you apply laughter into anything that you're doing from a physical perspective? Whether it's dancing at home or, again, putting something in the background like comedy sessions, the joy aspect of it. How about celebrating every time you finish a workout? How about celebrating every time you finish your meal? How about getting excited every single day to do your activity? Start pumping yourself up. I'm so pumped for it. I'm so excited for it. I'm so looking forward to it. Because that feeling, your body's going to want to repeat that. Now, vice versa, what helps you reconnect further to your goals from a physical perspective? is things that don't serve you, don't attach a feeling to them. Don't attach a feeling of negativity to your workouts. Don't attach a feeling of frustration when you miss a meal to whenever you're supposed to eat. Because if you attach negative feelings for it, you further push back your ability to be connected with the health, with your fitness, and with your nutrition. The last piece, what do I need to start experiencing that's going to help me reconnect? Experience. I'll tell you something. The live event on Saturday was a hell of an experience. There were people who came in there who were nervous. They were a little anxious. They were in that moment maybe a little timid or shy. And although there was only 9 people, we went deep with everyone. Your goals, your why, your purpose, everyone's sharing, everyone's opening up with each other. And you know what? There can be a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of lack of clarity that comes up for people that gives people the opportunity to reconnect. However, and this is why it took 3 months to put this event together and why this is super, super important to get you reconnected with your health and your fitness goals. We put together an experience that made people love every second of everything that we taught them. That's so important. The venue or where you physically show up and do things is part of the experience. White Oaks, phenomenal location, phenomenal resort, phenomenal service. Everywhere that they went, there was a chauffeur. There was a person to take them to where they needed to go. They had clear action steps. They didn't have to worry about things. You see, in creating that experience, alongside having 2 coaches who are there with you to work through everything, the experience is positive. You feel positive. You feel certain. You feel like you can. And that helps you stay reconnected to your goals. Because if you feel uncertain about it, if you're lost, if you don't have the clarity, if you're swirling around with all of these thoughts in your head as to where you need to start with your health and your fitness, is it food? Is it nutrition? Is it my diet? Is it my hormones? Is it my metabolism? If you're asking yourself all of these questions and you're not getting any clarity, that experience is a negative one. That experience makes you show up in a different way. It makes you disconnect because there's added friction, there's added resistance. So the experience is basically building around your life, building around your health, building around how you speak to yourself every day, building around the food and your workouts. It's building around an experience that is positive. So from a food perspective, we don't eat to cope with stress. We don't eat to cope with emotions. We don't eat just for the sake of eating because we want to numb ourselves or we want to rest. We allow ourselves the ability to fully rest. Whenever we're eating food, we're appreciative in that moment about eating food. We're taking our time to eat. We're not rushing ourselves. With that, you create an experience that's positive. That's just food as the example, but the same thing can be done with a workout. We make sure that we have our half an hour, 2 or 3 times a week that's solely dedicated to our growth and development. So when you do that workout and you put on that podcast while you're listening to your workout, or you put in that music, even something like music during the workout, is it positive? Or is it negative music? Is it music that has a really high beats per minute that starts to affect your heart rate and your mind? What is it that you're listening to, or how are you showing up with the physical things you need to do that gives you the experience that is positive? These things help you reconnect. Because I'll tell you something. Right now in this podcast, this episode is episode 60. You've got like 20 hours, I think. I think it's 20 hours that I saw the other day. 20 hours of tools, of resources, of materials. But if you're disconnected and you wake up, you feel like crap every single day. Mentally and emotionally, it's hard for you to stay in it. You're not going to use the tools. You're not going to make the changes. You're not going to actively be consistent with the things that you need to be consistent with. And therefore, you're not going to show up as the highest version of you. So you're not going to be the high performer that I know you can be. And that's the most important thing. Just like I said to you, and I made this promise to you literally on this podcast, that everything moving from here is going to have a really high level of integrity. It's going to have a really high level of performance. As a matter of fact, listening to this podcast, I'm going to expect a lot more from you, even if I can't visually see you. By listening to the words as a part of this podcast, you're going to start to apply more. You're going to listen to this episode and you're going to start to take things a little more seriously. You're going to work on becoming more reconnected with yourself, with your wealth, with your spiritual health, with your relationships, with your mental state, everything. Because you deserve to be the best version of you. And the most important thing is you're going to do it with certainty. You're going to do it because growth is something that you are excited about, something that you're looking for. And I'll tell you something, the recognition comes when you recognize yourself. When you start to believe that you're certain, when you believe that you can, when you believe that every health goal that you set is just a goal and that you fall in love with the experience, you're going to start to contribute more to your life. You're going to start to contribute more to the things you need to do to make those health changes possible. You're going to start to contribute more to your family and to your friends. You'll connect deeper with people because you're doing it in a place of certainty. Growth comes when you are certain about the action. And I'll finish this podcast episode with this here, besides giving you that homework of answering those things and those questions. The reason why I'm using words like certainty, contribution, growth, recognition, connection, is because these are a part of the 6 core human values that every single one of us needs in our life for us to be fulfilled. You need to have a certain level of certainty in your life. You need to have a certain level of significance and recognition in your life. You need to have a certain level of growth. You need to have a certain level of connection or love. You need to have a certain level of contribution, the things that you're willing to do or contribute towards in order for you to grow. The uncertainty, you've got more than enough uncertainty in your life. You can't control the things that you're uncertain of. But peace of mind comes to you when your life is in harmony with all of these core values and in no other way. In no other way. It's so important. I know you can do it. Most important thing, I know I can do it. I know I can show up as an even better version of a coach, as an even better person on this podcast for all of you people who are listening, because it matters to me. And that's the most important thing. In reconnecting, I recognize this is what matters. Because what matters to me is what I focus on. Just like what matters to you is what you're going to focus on. This is probably why that one thing that you excel really well in is working, because it matters to you. Maybe it's your job. Cool. If it matters, you're going to do well in it. Maybe it's your relationship with your partner. Cool. That's fine. But you want everything to matter in your life because you have 100% control. So that's the biggest part of this. So I appreciate you listening. Like I said, I know sometimes I get a little passionate. I'm fired up, but I'm truly fired up because I want to reconnect every single person who's listening, because you don't have to be disconnected. You do not have to have a disconnect with your health and your fitness goals. You don't have to feel a level of frustration like nothing is being accomplished. You can make a change today, right now. But this first starts with, you have to look at where you're disconnected and then ask yourself those 2 questions. I'll say those 2 questions again, right? Where you did. So what do I need to stop doing, thinking, feeling, experiencing that is keeping me disconnected? Question 1. Question 2, what do I need to start doing, thinking, feeling, and experiencing that will help me reconnect. All right, that is all for this episode, everyone. Thank you guys so much for listening. One of the things that we're going to be doing through November, like I said, is just going to be putting out more fire content, more podcasts. If you have a great podcast episode that you've been listening from Tea and Teaching, or whether it's from Getting Real with the Costas, my Tea and Teachings episodes on Facebook, or even an episode on the podcast here that you like and that you feel could benefit someone else, literally send them the link to the podcast. This is not just for your ears, it's for everyone to share and continue to grow and continue to connect together. So, love you all. Thank you so much for listening and have a good one. Bye. Well, it seems I'm all out of info juice for today. That's all for this episode, and thank you so much for listening. Please leave a raving review for me if you've learned something good, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Now, if you're in the mood for some more great content and tools to get your hormones on track, why not check out our free Facebook group and the blog on our site? We do amazing weekly trainings in our group that me and my wife call Tea and Teachings that give good tips for anything hormones and metabolism related. It's also a great community where you get to share your goals and success with like-minded people just like you. I'll make sure to drop both the Facebook group link and the blog link in the show notes for you. Or if you're ambitious like me, the name of the group is Weight Loss and Balanced Hormones. It'll say Fit for All beside it with a picture of me. So come and join us and have more fun.